And he was traded. Let's talk about it here on Locked On Blues.
Hey, this is Brain Chen.
Subscribe to Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, I'm going to talk to you about a trade that I said was going to happen a couple weeks ago on this channel. And that is Scott Perunovich. He has officially been traded. I'm going to talk about the what ifs and if the Blues enter a losing streak. Obviously, the Blues had a really bad 2-0 loss against the Dallas Stars this weekend, getting ready to take on the Canucks, and I don't think things are going to go the Blues' way. And of course, are the vibes gone? Do we need a vibe check? Yes, we do, because at some points in this season, I felt like the Blues had these really good vibes, right? And the Winter Classic was a huge example of that. But lately, I feel like what I'm seeing on the ice doesn't necessarily meet my standards of good vibes. We have a lot to discuss today. Obviously, the trade was unexpected to happen today, but I want to talk to you about that. First off, though, Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with the FanDuel Sports Book. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Go Birds, by the way. Anyways, let's talk about this trade with Scott Perunovich. We have known that Scott Perunovich hasn't been utilized much at all this season. He didn't start for the first 5 or 6 games. It's just been a constant battle. The Blues gave him a 1-year extension at the end of last season, which I did not agree with. And a lot of people came at me for that, saying that I wasn't being fair to him, that I'm not giving him a chance. But realistically, was I wrong for thinking that the Blues were making a mistake by giving Scott Perunovich a contract? Yes, I did. However, they still did that and things didn't go their way. But today it was announced that Scott Perunovich was traded to the New York Islanders for a conditional 5th round pick in the 2026 draft. So this is what I'm thinking, right? We have a pick now, a 5th round pick. Well, a conditional 5th round pick, may I add, in the 2026 draft. This to me was like a salary dump. And it's not like Perunovich was making that much. I believe it was like 1.1 something. But he wasn't making much money. It's a way to free up that cap space. And I think the Blues honestly made a really good decision by doing so. And the reason why is this. I believe that Doug Armstrong is still going to try to push for the Blues to get into the playoffs. We've talked about this. Now the Blues are sitting at 4.7 in their cap space after that trade today. You can get a pretty decent player, a young player, may I add, with that much money. I talked about Keandre Miller. I still want him on this team. But there's been a lot of trades happening within the NHL. So I'm not surprised that the Blues made this move. I feel like lately we've been seeing trades happen a little bit early, prematurely to the trade deadline, which is fine. But I do feel like the Blues might make a bigger move sooner rather than later. But for me, I'm not sad about this. I had a couple of chances to speak to Perunovich throughout the past couple seasons. And even when he was with the T-Birds, I saw him play. And here's my thing. He's 26. He's played NHL games. We know that he is not a first pair or second pair type of player, right? Third pair kind of player at best. And that's okay. I don't necessarily think it was his fault per se of this situation. I think that the Blues for what it's worth, couldn't develop him the way that they wanted him to be utilized. When Torrey Krug was announced that he'd be out for the season, a lot of people said, Perunovich kind of mimics Krug. And we talked about that, about having, Perunovich on the power play, which in hindsight was kind of stupid, right? But he had a lot of high expectations. I think that sometimes things don't pan out, and that is okay. And here's the thing. You might be thinking, Haley, this draft pick in 2026, if they do get it, it's not going to do anything, right? It's a 5th-round draft pick. Well, think about it like this. Let's go say the Blues, and I'm just saying his name for funsies, Tyler Tucker, right? They want to trade him. The Blues could always throw in that draft pick that they got as a package. So while it doesn't look maybe as appealing, and it's not, it's better than future considerations, but they could always use that in a package. And I feel like, again, you're not going to get anybody good out of that draft pick. It was more of just getting rid of him. They weren't using him, so there was no point in having him eat up some cap space and just be on the team. And I hate to be harsh about it, but that's the reality. And the Islanders have been playing some decent hockey lately. So, I mean, he gets a chance maybe to learn a new system, which, could benefit him. I'm not really necessarily worried about how he's going to be utilized with the Islanders, but there's always positives in a sense that the Blues now have more cap space, positive, and they now have a draft pick that they could utilize as part of another trade. I'm just saying that the Blues do have options when it comes to what they can do with that draft pick. But it is interesting though to me, right? Because he only had 6 points this season with 2 goals and 4 assists in the 24 games that he did play. The last time that he did play, though, by the way, and I was kind of like surprised. I thought it was not as long ago, but it was the January 4th game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Blues lost 6-4 in that game, if you don't remember. But um, again, not surprised. The Islanders had a couple defensemen, Ryan Pollock, Marcus Hogberg, that were basically announced that they're going to be out indefinitely with upper body injuries. So again, not so surprising that and they were also without Noah Dobson. Like I'm saying, like the team's a little bit of a mess right now when it comes to players. The team did sign Tony DeAngelo, which yeah, which is that Tony DeAngelo tweeted me a really bad baseball take a couple weeks ago. So I'm not saying that we have beef, but yeah. Um, Anyways, though, it just kind of made sense and they needed guys, and I guess it kind of just opened up for the Islanders in that aspect. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I'm not surprised. And I feel like for Perunovich, he's played 97 regular season games. So he has 29 points total. Obviously, I think he was a lot better with the T-Birds. And here's the thing, like when the Islanders have their players healthy again, do I suspect for Scott Perunovich to be, I don't know, utilized that much? Probably not. But the thing about Perunovich, though, is that he did try his best when he was here. And I'm not saying, oh, well, you know, that means something, but it does. It does. I know that he was, and I can say that I know he was because, as I said, I have spoken to him one on one, and I know that he does care and he does put his all in. I just think that from the start of the season when he wasn't being utilized for those first 5 or 6 games, that was a telltale sign that, hey, it may not pan out in his favor here in St. Louis. But I did say that the Blues should trade him at least, and that's what they did. I'm not saying on this podcast I predict things. I'm not. But I am saying it does come to a point where you have to kind of take a look in the mirror and say to yourself, wow, is Haley from Locked On Blues a genius? And the answer is no. But um, yeah, I don't think the fan base, I'm trying to see the fan base's reaction because I always save some tweets from all of you because I am curious maybe what you think about, the trade and what happened. And That's like the thing too. And Blues Muse said it best that they managed him awfully. He had so much potential. And that's true. I mean, and that's what I was basically saying about the development that they just couldn't do it. Someone said this is going to go down as the worst trades in franchise history. I think that's a little dramatic. Yeah, I get the frustration of only getting a 5th rounder, but it's not like you could really sell him in a sense of getting. I just, yeah, like maybe even getting a 3rd rounder would have been better, honestly, now thinking about it. But I don't really think that there's that much of a difference. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe you don't agree with me. I just don't think that Scott Perunovich screams to me. Give me a 3rd round pick, but it is what it is, and now we move on from that whole saga. I know. I feel like that was a big talking point of Locked On Blues for a while was about the future of Scott Perunovich. But now he's with the Islanders, and now the Blues have some more cap space. I want to talk to you about my friends over at FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from the kickoff to the final whistle. I personally love FanDuel so much. And for this game, we all know that the Birds are my team. So it's Eagles money line. I actually did that today. The line is, by the way, -1.5. Um, but also the other thing I like about FanDuel too is the live betting feature. So I like to do sometimes my picks a little bit far out in advance, but I also like to do some live betting. So no matter what happens on the field, you can live bet the game. So plus knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win 200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's like icing on the cake. And you could use that money for the Stanley Cup Finals. So download the app today or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5. And if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. So cool to say. Anyways, let's talk hockey again, okay? So, what if the Blues enter another losing streak? Now, this is a big possibility. As I said, the St. Louis Blues did fall to the Dallas Stars. It was an ugly, in my opinion, an ugly 2-0 loss. The Stars are a good team, okay? I will full on admit that the Stars are a really good team, but at the end of the day, Jordan Bennington, and I feel for him, I really do. But statistically, it's not showing that he's having that good of a season. Um, there was 9 shots on goal. 19, I meant. He saved 17, 2-1 in. Tough game. The Blues just looked awful. It was one of those games where you kind of were like, do I really need to watch this? And then prior to that Stars game, the Blues did lose to the Golden Knights 4-2 at home. So now the Blues have lost 2 games at home. They have one more game at home before they go on the road. So I feel like tonight's game against the Canucks is a big game because the Blues are just going to fall further and further down in terms of points. They need points desperately. So I'm going to talk to you about what's going on with the game tonight. Some lines, because the Blues did tweak their lines a little bit, and what this losing streak could actually mean. So in the first line, we have Robert Thomas centering. On the left, it's Jake Neighbors, and on the right, it's Bushi. For the second line, we have Schenner centering. On the left, it's Holloway, and on the right, it's Kyrou. I actually like that line a lot, the Holloway, Schenner, and Kyrou. Finally, on that third line, it's Matthew Joseph. To the left, it is Saad, and on the right, it's Zach Bolduc. And then finally, Oh, we have our WTF line. It's Fox. No, it is. Fox is centering, Alexi on the left, and Walker on the right. And that's a line too that I really enjoy. Defense, we have Philip Broberg and Colton Pareko. We have Cam Fowler and Justin Falk, and then we have Ryan Suter and Tyler Tucker. Binner is in net. Here's the thing, and this is maybe my hot take. I really think I, maybe I'm asking for too much for Cam Fowler and Ryan Suter to play on the same pair. I know, but I want to see that happen. I don't know why necessarily. I think that I just feel like they would actually produce really well together, but I know they both are on the left, so that's not going to happen, but in an ideal world, I think that would be kind of cool to have, but that's just my 2 cents. Anyways, Walker is back into the lineup tonight, as I did mention. And he's with his, well, at least my favorite line. I don't know if it's his favorite line. Also, the other shift was Matthew Joseph centering to skate with Sod and Bold Duke on the third line. Montgomery said, I want more of a speed lineup tonight. I want to get that Foxa line back because they give us a lot of energy and I can match them up against anyone and really fast. And that's what I've talked about is that line gives you so much. I don't understand why he tweaks that line all the time because I really do enjoy that line. He continues on and says, and Matthew Joseph is doing a really good job. Mojo can play center. That's his nickname. And he's going to move and play with Bolduc and Sad, a real fast line there. So I like this one a lot too. I just feel like Matthew Joseph is such an underrated player, and I do feel like he does bring a lot of speed onto the ice. I do also like that he is reuniting his first line of Jake Neighbors, Thomas, and Bushi. And then obviously I enjoy the Shenner, Holloway, and Cairo line as well. So um it's gonna be good tonight. Um Cam Fowler honestly is somebody that I feel like has had a lot put on him. I feel like he's been kind of carrying the team in a sense. Not like that he's full on carrying the team, but defensively, I feel like he has been a vital piece. And I'm kind of surprised how the Blues won games without him. But I like Fowler, and I feel like, I don't know, he's just somebody that we kind of needed this season. But I want to talk about the main point, though, about what if the Blues go on, a losing streak and what's going to happen? Because I have to tell you, I am really disappointed about how things have been going lately because they had potential, they did, and now I am just feeling absolutely defeated. But the Blues, they're still in it, right? Eh, kind of. So the Blues have 50 points still, right? They're a 500 team. That's literally what they're at right now, 500. Playing the Canucks tonight, who are ahead of St. Louis with 52 points. Ahead of the Canucks in the second wildcard spot is the Calgary Flames of 55 points, who the Blues did beat twice. So it's kind of frustrating because the Blues beat a team but it's fine. And then the Avs, who are in the first wildcard spot with 60 points. The reason why I mention this, oh, by the way, and for our Central Division for all fun, in the third spot, the Wild have 62 points, Stars have 63, and then the Jets have 71. So wild card, it might be probably if they're going to get to it. But the reason why tonight's game, though, means so much for the Blues is if the Canucks get another 2 points, it's going to be really challenging for the St. Louis team to catch up with the schedule that they have. If the Blues are able to get the 2 points, okay, you're still in it. You obviously have to hope that the Flames, don't win, but, you still have some mojo going on, right? Some swag that you can get back on. I would be concerned, though, about the Utah Hockey Club. They're also a 500 team right now with 49 points. They're 21-21-7 this season. So they're not too far behind the Blues. And I feel like that's something that should be a little bit concerning. Not a big difference between 50 and 49 points. It's not. Do I think that the Blues are a better team than Utah? I don't know because Utah has beat us. They looked better than us when they played against us. So I don't know. And I feel like this kind of brings me into my final segment about the vibes. But before I talk about that, I just want to remind you, if you're listening to Locked On Blues, to hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Hello, good to see you again. If you're listening on your phone during a podcast app or any other type of way, I'm just in your ears, you don't see me. Hello again, make sure to subscribe. Leave a comment below. By the way, if you're on YouTube, you can tweet at me at Locked On Blues, and we can have some really good hockey discussion. And more specifically, St. Louis hockey discussion. That's the only hockey discussion I want to have, anyways. But I do feel like we need to talk about the vibes because I feel like they're gone. I'm on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, right? And I'm scrolling, I'm perusing online, and I see this really cool thing about Braden Shen. And it's saying, Braden Shen has been a pillar in the St. Louis community since joining the club 8 years ago. And since being named captain last season, he has donated a suite for each Blues home game. So it's called Shen's Friends, and it's really cool. And I saw that, and I thought to myself, wow, this is a really good guy off the ice. And it got me thinking. I feel like he gets a lot of unnecessary blame for how the team might be doing. He needs to be a better leader. He needs to do this and that. But he seems like a good guy. And how does this relate to vibes, right, of what's going on the ice? I feel like we need to take a step back. We do, as a fan base. We need to take a step back and we need to look at what's going on here. When this team plays teams below 500, they struggle. When this team plays teams above 500, they struggle. When this team plays one of the worst teams in the NHL, they win. And yes, I'm talking about the Chicago Blackhawks during the Winter Classic. But this team just doesn't have enough key pieces to be a successful hockey team this season. But I don't blame Braden Shen, Jordan Binnington, Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, Colton Parayko, Holloway, Broberg. I don't blame them. It's hard to even blame anyone necessarily for this, I don't want to say vibe loss, but this team just doesn't have that it factor. So sometimes when I see people slandering Braden Shen as a captain, I get annoyed about it just because I see that post and I think to myself, how great of a guy he really is, how much he cares. I mean, he wasn't supposed to have the career that he had. He was not supposed to be who he is. Like, if you told me, like, years ago that Schenner would be captain of a hockey team, I would not believe you. And that's just the reality of it. But evidently, right now, what's happening to the Blues, it's frustrating. And I get the frustration. I sense the frustration. Do I understand why Doug Armstrong is putting the Blues in a situation to be a middle team again? No, I don't. If I were a GM, which I'm not, but if I were a GM, I would at this point I would just bring up the younger players. I bring up Dvorsky. I would just bring up some of the younger guys and give them a chance because I'm not saying to purposely lose games, but what's the point in trying to stay a middle average team? You can't do that. I mean, you can do that. Do I think that's the smart decision to make? No, I don't. And I'm sorry, but I don't. And I look at this league right now. So there's 32 teams in the league, right? Whoa, hockey fact. The Blues are 22nd. Below the Blues at 23rd is Philadelphia, and above the Blues is Detroit at 21, just to paint the picture at 51 points. We look at our bottom team, and that is the San Jose Sharks, 34 points. Chicago Blackhawks, 35 points. Buffalo Sabres, 41 points. Predators 43, Anaheim 46. The way that I am seeing this, and I hate to just be listing all these teams, I'm seeing this as, oh my goodness, we're gonna be a top 10 draft pick, baby. Let's go. But realistically, that's kind of the goal. But if the Blues were to sneak down, I mean, it's not even sneaking down. So I want to talk a little bit more actually. So I'm gonna confuse you probably. So I do apologize. So as I said, Blues are 22nd in the league. Below them is Philadelphia at 50 points. Below Philly at 24th in the league at 49 points is the Isles. Below the Isles at 49 is Utah. Below Utah is Pittsburgh at 48 points. You have Seattle at 47 points, Anaheim at 46 points, so on and so forth. With the Blues having 50 points, Philadelphia tonight, if they win, they could surpass the Blues if the Blues lose to the Canucks, right? So then the Blues would get a top 9 pick. Again, Islanders, they could surpass the Blues. I have to see when they play next. Let me go check really fast. New York Islanders, they play tomorrow against the Avalanche. I actually might be able to speak to Scott Perunovich on Thursday when he comes to Philadelphia. I might try to do that for the podcast, actually. So all I'm saying is you have a couple teams that with one win, and if the Blues lose, could surpass the Blues, and then we could be a top 7 draft pick. Now, I'm not saying that I think the Blues, because I know how Doug Armstrong is, and I don't think he's going to allow this team to fall that far down. I just think that it is possible. So if like you're a little bit optimistic in the Blues getting a good draft pick, yeah, it's possible. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I think that Doug's going to end up making a trade sometime this week. I really do, to get a big name player. I do. Maybe not this week, maybe next week, but I'm just getting the sense that a lot of teams have been really active lately with trades. So just my 2 cents. All right. Tomorrow I will talk to you about this Canucks game. Do I think it's going to go the Blues' way? Probably not. But you know what? It is what it is at this point. By the way, after the Canucks, the Blues, they won't play again until Friday. I know. It's a really weird schedule. They will be out in Colorado to take on the Avalanche. It is such a bad schedule. Like the fact that I'm sorry, like quick rant, NHL. I do a segment every single Friday called Are We Feeling Blue? How am I supposed to say if this was a good week or a bad week for the St. Louis Blues if the St. Louis Blues only have one game this week? So thanks a lot. But yeah, anyways, the Blues won't play again until Friday. And then they play on Sunday at Utah. And then next Tuesday, they host the Edmonton Oilers. So I'm going to actually ask my buddy Nick. Nick and I have done some collabs in the past. He does the Locked on Oilers podcast. I'm going to try to do a little collab with him and a little crossover episode because we have a lot of fun, Nick and I. And I feel like you guys really enjoyed us together. So definitely we'll try to get him on the show at some point. But as I said, it's going to be a tough couple weeks. All right, I will talk to you like always tomorrow and how I end every single episode. Let's go Blues.